is there is this sense of we over me, right? Like there's this sense of this team goal. And when Jalen gets benched, it's not about him, it's about the team. Like you said, like there's opportunity if we want to look at Tua's side of things, which is the opposite of what we've been talking with Jalen. And so for Jalen to get demoted, Tua gets that opportunity. The leader in play, there's a lot of different leaders. You know, you got your team leaders in terms of players, but Saban being the key decision maker here, if we can ignore the boosters and all that behind him, because I think they let him run a good bit of the show, at least I'd like to think. He's not really focused and charged with the emotion that we are when we hear starting quarterback benched. Like he knows that these guys know each other, they trust each other, they've got this relationship, and I don't think he would do that willingly if he knew that that was going to blow up in his face. And so I almost like to look at it at like, I mean, he is quite literally just putting numbers on these guys. And so if number one comes in for number two, because number one has a better opportunity for the outcome that he wants, that's what it is. Like, of course they are people, but for him in that scenario, what probably helps best is looking as objectively as he can and not having these biases and like these charges. That's not something that we get in our workplaces and in our life. Like that's just not how the brain works. Some people perhaps will. Those people also, you know, might struggle with some like connection, right? And so I think in the workplace in particular, it's very interesting to consider, you know, what biases do I have going on? How am I feeling? Like what emotional reactions am I having to these things? 'Cause sometimes when that drives your actions and behaviors, you're not necessarily thinking as objectively as you can. And again, there are pros and cons to that, right? And for me, I know how I think about things is if I'm in Jalen's situation, I'm upset. And the reason I'm upset is because I think that I am quarterback one. And the key thing that I'm interpreting when Tua comes in, this is not the team perspective, this is if I was in it, is I'm not good enough, right? That's thought focused on me. It's not necessarily about the team in that moment. And so what I see and kind of how I rationalize things in the world is when confidence is undermined, people get defensive and people get angry. And so if I'm in the workplace, like I'm doing my actual job, and someone comes in and, you know, gets a job or tries to take a responsibility or a project I'm on or kind of like shuts me down, I get defensive and I get angry. In some of those scenarios where I think that's whether I think it out loud or if it's just a, you know, implication in my head, is that it is assumed that my competence has been like stepped on and I'm not capable or worthy of completing that task.